Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about friendship, because it's one of these things that comes and goes. So first, I want to talk. This video is going to be kind of in two parts, as best as I can do it. I know I go off on tangents. Sometimes it might bridge across. Who knows? But what it comes down to is I want to talk about first the four pillars that kind of sit in the middle of solid friendships, and then I want to talk about some of the realities of friendship, because unfortunately, people come and go, and that's a thing that we need to address. So first off, though, the four big pillars. First one is to be supportive and encouraging of one another. And these are in no particular order, by the way, but if you're going to be a friend to someone, and if they're going to be a friend to you, then they need to support you and encourage you in what you're doing. It doesn't have to be anything big, but realizing that you've got you're confident in yourself, and that having them reinforce that, because they're your friends, they're your pack, they're your local collective that are holding you to keep going. That's an important thing, because that's how then you get to move on to some of these other pillars. Very much like the three R's that I deal with in regards to personal strength. These allow for a lot of movement and back and forth and connectivity between these four pillars. So being supportive, being encouraging, you would have thought that would be straightforward, but some people struggle with it. Some people have real struggles trying to stand behind their friends, regardless of how much they appreciate them or not. But how do you support your friends? Well, you have to be an effective communicator. You have to actually open up to your friends, and sometimes that's very hard. I know full well that with an awful lot of my friends, I will communicate to an extent, but there's an awful lot going on in my head that I keep back. And so at times I will sit back and I'll listen and I'll take things on board instead of actually offering the conversation. And to be fair, some of those listening skills have served me very well as a coach. But what it comes down to is, especially when it's my friends and I'm part of a group, sometimes, especially when I've known some of these people from when I was a rather insecure and reclusive child, some of those friends that I'm in touch with, it does still get me kind of wanting to take that step back, wanting to quiet down a little bit, wanting to kind of let them have their say, analyze it, and get back to them, instead of just being who I usually am, whereby I would usually just put my point across. It takes that moment and that separation. But effective communication is such a big thing. It's why I always talk about having discussions. It's why I talk about always making sure that you've got a good grounding for any discussion you're going into, because it's pretty straightforward. If you don't have a good grounding, it's going to collapse. If you don't have the understanding to allow for that good and effective communication, then you're not going to get anywhere with it, and the friendship that you have is probably going to break down. But then the next thing is honesty and trust. And now these two things are kind of linked, but also slightly separate. You've got the honesty, and everyone knows that if you're with your best friend, that person is going to be brutally honest with you. They're probably not going to hide anything from you, and it's just going to be straightforward. You're not going to do the same to them either. If you are hiding things from your friends like that, then that's going to cause breakdowns. That's going to cause problems. And then the trust, though, I'm one of these people that very much feels that trust has to be earned, the same way as respect does, respect being the final pillar, but we'll get to that in a minute. But what it comes down to is that you've got to have that honesty and trust, so that you can share the difficult personal information, or you can have that effective communication with a solid grounding. You can have that support and encouragement without having the miscommunications, or without worrying that it's going to be taken the wrong way or anything like that. That honesty and trust there is as much to just keep the friendship going as it is to help you survive. If you've got a friend that's going to be brutally honest with you and just going to be like, look, you're talking shit, what you've said is nonsense, what you've said is literally poisonous and damaging, how have you come across this? Then especially someone that's not going to give up on you, someone that's going to come back to you again over those things. You may not be particularly fond of coming, them coming to you with that, but especially when you may very well be the only person in a friendship group that has come out and said that or made that point, don't be afraid to do that. If your friend is worthwhile, they'll take it under consideration, they'll look into it, they won't just dismiss it. Yeah, and especially when it comes down to one person actively working in truth, in fact, in quantitative evidence, as I mentioned before, and you've got another person who's dealing purely on anecdote. Oh, it's the way that I feel. Oh, it's the way that I want to do things. Oh, those are excuses. There's no solid evidence to it. There's no rational thought to it. And it's a demonstration of the fact that they're not willing to take a look at themselves to break that down and to see what's going on. Especially when they start bringing other people into it. If you're a good friend, then what it comes down to is, you may call someone out, but then if they go, oh, well, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so didn't think that, so, guess what? Lots of people have objectively been wrong as majorities before. Look at the number of people, for instance, in regards to Trump. He won within the system that he was in. He won the majority. Yeah, and I don't care if Hillary won the popular vote. It was agreed that with their electoral system at the beginning of the race that was the system being used. He won the majority, fair and square, and it was close. Yeah, it was a close race. That's fine. He still won. Is he the best option for America, though? That's highly debatable. And so what it comes down to, though, is that there are lots of people that would say those people are wrong, but they were a majority. Majority rules does not always happen, especially when someone is grounded in fact and evidence and the other person is only talking about their feelings, or anecdotes, stories, nonsensical evidence that can be easily dismissed because it can just as easily be made up as it can be true. So what it comes down to, though, with this honesty and trust aspect, you need to be honest. And you need to trust that there is both an appreciation of that honesty, but also that there is honesty coming back the other way. Deliberately holding back from the effective communication, stopping the things going round in your head from coming out of your mouth when it is important. I'm not just talking about me sat in the pub and letting other people talk and me just listen. I'm talking about if someone is talking to you about an issue or about a thing and you have a thing to say on it, say it. Be honest, brutally so. A good friend will appreciate that, take it on board, think around it, and look to move forward with it. Someone who doesn't really care for your friendship will shrug you off. But then this is where we come to respect. Respect, like trust, has to be earned. As I've said in other videos, it's very much a currency that develops over time. Yeah? As a result of actions, as a result of things you've said, things you've done, whatever. The respect that comes between two friends is incredibly important, and it shows to taking thoughts and feelings seriously. The thing is, even within that, you need to have that degree of separation. You're not the same person, you're not hive mind just because you're friends. You're still responsible for your feelings, they're still responsible for theirs. If you say something and they can't take it because you've been honest, you've been straightforward, something like that, then fine. But if they break down and it's all feelings, and they're trying to blame those feelings on you, they're trying to pin them on you, that just shows they don't respect you. That just shows they never trusted you. It shows they weren't honest with you to a degree because they've probably had this in them for a fair while and they're bringing it out now. They've obviously not effectively communicated because they've not been able to communicate these feelings and these thoughts to you over time. Instead, they are letting them out all in one go. When faced with the horrible, ugly truth of you being honest with them. And they're obviously not willing to support or encourage you as you are trying to do to them by making them aware of their shortcomings. Because seemingly, as with the breakdown of these other three pillars, they've not been kind of doing the same back to you necessarily. Or maybe they've been doing it too much. Maybe they've been too critical of you. Who knows? But this is the thing. This is where we're going to move on to this second thing about friends. And that is that it can suck when friendships end. I've lost a lot of friends over time, even by doing these videos, by having these conversations, by just generally being me and being persistent and consistent in what I'm doing, and having my very straightforward approach to reality is a solid thing that you can actively move within and interact with, and it is a understandable through science, and it is a bedrock for all of these other conversations that we have to have. It needs to be built on that fact, on that substantial universe that we live within. If you're dealing with that, then you also have to realize that no person is special. And as a result of no person being special, if you lose a friend, doesn't matter. There are 7 billion at the moment other friends kicking around on this planet for you to go and talk to, meet, who may be much better friends, who may be worse friends. I've lost friends, I've lost lovers over time. Some have just drifted away. Some were mutual partings as a result of distance or time constraints or things like that. Some friends were large explosions of emotion where I'm sat there being straightforward and reasonable, as I always am, looking at evidence and the quantitative side of things over anything else, and allowing me to be controlled by me, and trusting and believing that they can control themselves, and that has maybe not been the case. And as a result, what it comes down to is those people have then decided to move away from me, or in instances they have gotten to a point where they aren't obviously fulfilling the requirements of being a friend as per the 4 pillars that we discussed a minute ago, and as a result I've moved away from them. Yeah, it sucks, but at the same time, what's more important? Having the positive 4 pillars of honesty and trust, respect, effective communication, support and encouragement, having those things present in your life as a result of someone else? Or are you going to continually be brought down by someone else's negativity, someone else's emotional turmoil that they don't seem to be able to rein in? You know, just in the face of you trying to do these things for them, trying to hold these pillars up for them. Simply put, you've only got a finite time on this planet with these people. Everything is transitory. If people decide to move away from you, that is entirely their choice. If you decide to move away from people, it's entirely your choice. It may suck when it happens, but it's a thing that happens, and it's a thing that doesn't end the world. Emotional blackmail from individuals like that, whereby they try and compare you to others, or they suggest that you're the only one that's causing the problem, or whatever else, or that you have hurt their feelings and so you should feel bad about yourself. That's all well and good. They can try and do all those things. But as said, with the 3 R's from my other videos, and with these 4 pillars as your criteria for keeping an eye on your friendships and making sure that they live up to a good standard, quite simply, you'll be fine. There are so many other people out there, and whilst I realise that some people have difficulty making friends, there's always someone. There's always someone new. There is always going to be someone new until our species dies out, and then it won't matter anymore. Take some solace in the fact that everything moves on. You'll be fine, don't worry about it. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Down in the comments there, just tell me about the friendships you've had, friendships that have ended, you know, how you felt afterwards, what you did to keep going. Because you're obviously still around because you're watching this video and you're awesome. But tell me what you guys have experienced, tell me what you think. Otherwise, if you found this at all useful, having these criteria that also, by the way, apply to relationships in terms of your romantic ones, you know, these are 4 big pillars that sit right in the middle of all kind of close friendship or whatever else. You know, I'd consider my girlfriend to be one of my closest friends, as well as the fact that she's my girlfriend. You know, it's in the name, really. But what it comes down to is, you know, if you found this interesting, if you found all of those things as a good list of criteria to have, please drop me a like. Otherwise, please subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.